Good morning, Yari. I am.
Good morning, Peter.
So obviously, I want to ask, what are you dancing today? But maybe more specifically, I'd like to ask, does what you're dancing feel unique? Does it feel singular, sort of separate, distinct, its own?
Mm,
You see where I'm going?
Yeah, I think it feels unique because the way my body translated what I dance, the dance, almost
Hmm.
like it feels unique because today my body is so different from yesterday.
Hmm.
In that sense, it's maybe unique, but not as something like, oh, oh my God, that's so unique the way I do. But more like the way it resonates in my body feels unique.
Mm. Like, because I was looking at habits at the beginning of the week, right? And
Yeah.
I feel as though I didn't really actually open up. What what is a habit? And maybe that's partly because that's perhaps one of the most fundamental materials of dance is dealing with the because what do we mean by habits, right? Like, is just even the formation of the body, like even its evolutionary conditions, like the physicality of it,
Yeah.
the specificity of why it is how it is that not in some part similar to this thing we call habit, this thing that has been produced through repetition, through yeah, maybe not natural selection. I don't know. But exactly like, hmm, this does feel unique, no? Or does it? Is
Yeah.
Are we just replicating the same, or are we doing something new?
Yeah.
Right? It's maybe it's not that. Maybe it's not even that. That shouldn't be the question. But I feel like that that too often that is the question, or maybe it should be the question. Oh my word.
Mm. Mm. I think there is also I mean, it's in relation. Habits are in relation to dance technique,
Yeah,
natural organization, whatever that means.
yeah.
Also, I mean, you spoke about that right now. Um, but also social mannerism,
Mm,
like the way we move in space. That, but it's very recognizable. Like I'm thinking, uh, in a way, it's also the learning condition,
yeah.
no, that require us habits. I mean, like this, as you speaking, we don't need to think through. We just put
Yes.
it in our body, right? Um,
I mean,
yeah.
how about this? Should we, or could we separate the sort of our understanding, of the body is behaving this way because of technique, because of training, because of social codes, because of um, aesthetic preference, because of practice. We know this. However, we can still feel something as unique or as boring and derivative and the same.
Mm.
Perhaps it has more to do with pattern recognition and how that emotionally connects and resonates with us than this actual like knowledge that we use to sort of articulate our thoughts around these things, if that makes sense. Like, is there a division between feeling and knowledge?
Mm.
Obviously, our knowledge can affect our feelings, right? Like,
Mm.
if I focus on like like, oh, I know this, then it then I feel it as sort of not unique, as something habitual. Um, but I can also sit in the knowledge that, but this is a unique situation. I've never done this type of arabesque thing I'm doing right now whilst talking to you via this format of a podcast. So, and when I focus on that, then I recognize it as unique, as something different to
Ah.
something I've done before.
Mm. Mm.
I mean, in a way, we're sort of entering into the space of chance and randomness and uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting what you're saying, but also I think habits, it's something that doesn't challenge as much. Uh, and
Hmm.
I don't know, I just feel it's a bit that also, no? And the point is exactly that. It's like it's something that can stay with us without us to be focused on. And that's why it doesn't challenge us. It doesn't take our attention. I mean, you speak
Yeah,
in, yeah, right?
attention. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, artistically, and maybe even just in when one dances, a lot of it is about attention, like how I'm attending my body, time, rhythm, sensation. This attention is really central in dance practice, right? Because it's very easy to take walking, which we would maybe not consider as dancing, but if we change how we attend the walking, we can easily imagine it as a dance. Very easy. There's very little who would challenge this idea that walking could be considered dance. And I think equally, there's very few who would say that often walking isn't dancing. Yeah.
Yeah, but also you're right that if we are busy in walking and we get caught in the in be attentive to the walking, right? And be somewhere in a space of walking that we have not been before.
Hmm.
So that is also challenge our habits. Then
Yes.
walking
Yes.
can become so exciting and so
Mm.
and so yeah.
And so here, I think we're at somewhere interesting. So if I attend my activity, I'm attentive of it physically, then am I already then interrupting or um, engaging at least with the habitual? There's a creative conversation
Yeah.
um, with the yeah, with the activity, uh, so to speak. And yet we we also let me get this out because I don't think I said it in the episode this week, and I think it's important. It's this idea that sometimes we want to dance, to be able to dance and not think. And I think this is really interesting. Am I misspeaking? It's so good to have you because am I misspeaking in that there is some? types of performance of dance or ways of dancing where you are trying to allow the body to do the dance and you're not controlling it too much because it would slow down the process. It would maybe inhibit the dance in a way. And in fact, if you can remove your mind somehow from thinking of what step is next, the dance is actually uh, more interesting or more valuable for that context. Have you experienced this? Is this something I'm?
No, no, I think I have experienced this. I think I get in mind in my mind two different things that are very different. One is exactly the training situation,
Mm,
the making it into the body, getting in the choreography, whatever it
mhm,
means. Just
mhm,
yeah, basically uh, getting, for example, a choreography inside your body, ba, 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 and
mhm,
become a habit, and then you go. And there is a question at some moment where I do actually, I have to be attentive to certain things because if not, it gets too automatic, or there is
mhm,
something there is
mhm,
not anymore alive.
mhm,
And this is one thing, and then it's totally something else.
mm,
Uh, it's like walk and talk situation.
yeah.
It's all those practice discursive practices that now are working together with movement,
Mm,
speaking and moving. There
mm,
is many, and here in Stockholm also it's a thing.
mm,
And there where clearly habits it's part of the game, and it's important because you are giving to the body, to the dance, a sort of uh, a big responsibility.
yeah. Yeah. And I think we can actually, well, firstly, we can say not all dance, right? Like, I'm sure there are many people and places and dances which don't ask that we mm, don't think and that the body has learned enough the choreography that it can just dance. I always remember teachers saying sometimes you dance better when you're tired because you can't think in the body. So the dances. Uh, however, um, in in that, now I lost my trail of thought. Is
Mm.
it possible for like mm, oh yeah, I forget. I forget what I wanted to say. Oi, oi, oi. Too much dancing and
Ah,
thinking.
too much dancing. Oops.
But what was, do you have any, where are your questions and thoughts around dance at the moment or in relationship to these questions?
On one side, I think there is a question about around the training,
Hmm.
the warm up. I'm thinking more like those kind of moments and how habit is in there, how my body needs a recurring kind of warm up, um, and also that it just goes through. I don't know if that is, I don't need to think too much about it. It's just, it's giving me that things that I need in order to do something else after,
Hmm.
or to be prepared for specific things. And one,
Yes.
it's around that, for example. I mean, also maybe my body is getting a bit, you know,
But
changing all the time, but
this is the second time you bring up technique actually in relationship to. And
yeah.
actually, I think it's really, I remember now where I wanted to go in our conversation was actually something I think next week I'm going to talk about of authority and control. And so inside of um, the the project of choreography is this desire for control, right? Like to especially from Louis the XIV, right? Who sort of produced the word choreography, or where we sort of often refer back to, where he wanted everyone to dance as he was dancing. He wanted it to be standardized. He wanted that, I think, that dance is performed in a certain way. And it wasn't only really the dancing, it was like etiquette, like how one stands, one's posture, one's like the aesthetic of of um, of the time. He wanted to sort of have his impression on that. And it's kind of what's interesting is where this control intercepts with habit, because habits is what um, is it forms us. And so you start to see like a if we look through the lens of power and control, quite an ugly tendency, or interesting or curious tendency, to want that people will adopt, even on a physical, neurological, even muscular, like actual physical level, a patterning that is reminiscent of a certain type of dancing. And of course, I think this is where we start to see different approaches to habit, where habit is being used as, mm, you know, included in the dance. Like maybe habits are allowed, like Jonathan Burrows says, which I quote at the beginning of the uh, the episode this week. But you see where I'm going. There's something very
Absolute.
mm,
It's also strikes me to think about habits also as a way to not control. Like because I mean, from
yes, yeah,
what we are doing here, let's say,
yeah,
speaking and dancing, we
hmm
somehow decide that our habits, we give our habits a sort of agency,
hmm
knowing that it's impossible to control them,
mm,
and somehow this could allow them to tell us something. Am I
yes.
wrong? Just to make sure that
No, I think you're
the
absolutely right.
speaking dancing that we are busy somehow in this
Mm,
specific
mm.
podcast, me and you,
And,
it's actually
and
this.
and actually in many practices, actually this
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
true,
of course.
right? Where um the contradiction that is sort of proposed by this idea that choreography can control completely 100%. And I mentioned that in the podcast. I say, that you could avoid habit, or break habit, or produce habits 100%, is sort of like difficult. But then I felt like, but who's asking someone to completely break 100% their habits, and who's asking for someone to completely produce 100%, like to be 100% habitual in a way, like, and of course it's like it's both. And I think we start to touch on this blurry space of um the politics of life, right? That uh, the habitual is almost who we are, but it's also not a sort of singular science, right? Like we're not actually completely habitual. We're not completely determined by the the biological and situational thing, uh, and at the same time, they're sort of entangled. They both exist at the same time. It's these absolutisms that sort of catch us out, but at the same time don't. I have to think of how, like, you know, we live with two types of freedom, maybe the freedom to and the freedom from, but they happen simultaneously, even though they're somehow contradictory, in a way. I,
Hmm.
I have to think of like how life. I've been listening to Catherine Malibu again. There's a really beautiful podcast where she's interviewed, speaking about her book, Stop Thief. And I have to think about the indifferences of of parts of us, of some. of some parts of us to control, and there's something interesting in the play there where we are trying to manipulate or control or be with and not control, right? Like go with the habits, allow the
Yeah.
body to be what it needs to be,
Mm.
whatever that is. And the sort of the indifference to those activities, like you said, a little bit like mm, I can't control, like I can't. There isn't a control, um, yet and yet like the scare. Maybe it's a scary thing. It's traumatic, perhaps even. This is what Catherine says, like to go with this life which is out of our control. Uh, but at the same time, it's very implicit. Like, of course, like uh, we just are. And interestingly, just one last thing in this interview, I'll link it in this episode. But
Well, thank
she says like maybe it's like about trying to find a style for this indifferent life that we have. And I think it's interesting to use the word style because, of course, style can be changed for aesthetic, right? Like, so how can we aestheticize or make tangible, aesthetically speaking, the
Oh, wow.
the life of our being, of
Oh,
ourselves?
oh, wow. Style. I don't know. It's interesting if you bring in style beside habits in
Hmm.
dance, of course. I
Hmm.
cannot go back into that. Sorry.
Please.
It's an interesting concept. A bit connected to what I said before, mannerism.
Yeah.
Maybe in social setup, but also in dance. I mean, in some certain dance group, because they're being looking for certain values, there is certain way of just having gestualities
Mm.
and even just behaving, uh, postures and reacting to each other.
Hmm.
Uh, but style, I read this article a few times, and there was a question about the signature of the choreographer, but then there's also was a question about the style.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the style within a company that is not exactly
Yes.
the senior of the choreographer. And this beautiful article would speak about style as something that is actually more collective, that
Yes.
is
Yes.
built up by the dancers
Yeah. Yeah.
through a sort of charming each other, no?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see the other dancer beside you doing certain way, you like that, or maybe it's
You
appreciated by the
resist that a little bit.
choreographer, and then
Mm.
somehow everyone start to have this sort of style that is a bit also has its own agency style in itself, become a creator of the common
Mm.
beyond the signature of the choreographer, or maybe something that add this into the signature to the choreographer
Mm.
of the choreographer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It gets sort of that responsibility sort of then gets taken on by the choreographer, right? Like there's a sense of like they hold the burden of accountability for that style, uh, more or less, right?
More or
But
less, though, but
but I think
is
what you're describing is also like a sort of relational aesthetics, like the the I said aesthetics and I meant to say ethics, which is interesting. But our values, our aesthetic values, maybe, or ethical values, they are an amalgamation of the situation of the people involved, and we find, uh, yeah, and maybe style or those values, they have an agency of themselves, or they are party to a relational situation which informs them, right? Like gives them character. so to speak. Yeah.
I I think I have a question for you in relation to habits.
Hmm.
I'm trying to formulate this question. It's something about the habits of reacting. So
Mm.
how our habits in reacting, not how our
Mm. Mm.
habits,
Mm.
like as a
Mm.
reactive.
Mm.
How do you think about that?
Well, I
Maybe
mean,
if you have
I think
thoughts.
that that's a habit of choice, isn't it? In a way, maybe, or a habit of response, maybe, or
Exactly, the habits of response.
like, and that can be both choice, like I
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
it mentally, like I prefer, I choose, or it could be phenomenological, right? Like there's a physiological habitual responsiveness. Like if I touch something hot, I move away. Like you could argue that
Right.
there's there are responses which are like that, right? That are more dance related. Like I see you do something fast, and I I follow you. I want to do
Right.
that fast thing, but I respond on a type of fastness in a certain way, or or I go against it. And I think, I mean, this is almost the foundation of sort of compositional improvisation technique, right? Like how are we making choices? And I believe like there's almost an aestheticized and or maybe even ethical, but like there is a style around like what choices are good to make in improvisation and which ones are bad. Mm, I don't know. I think I really struggle with this idea that there is a more or less interesting aesthetic. I think often for me, I tend to move towards the container, the context to
Mm,
give guidance around what is acceptable and interesting or sort of exciting, or what breaks patterns and so on. I find it less interesting inside. Uh, no, that's not true. I don't know. I don't know where my taste, my pleasure, my really resides. I mean, I've been thinking a lot about how we're like prediction machines, right? We're sort of programmed, or not programmed obviously, but we have a desire towards looking for patterns and then finding changes and seeing and getting excited by this sort of like, oh, that's not what I expected, or that fulfilled my expectations, which is exciting. Like there's this sort of these kind of things.
ah,
I
wow,
I mean,
yeah.
actually, what's interesting is, so we're dancing now, right? And I'm finding myself doing cliche, what I feel like is cliche, because we don't have
Yeah.
like anything to really challenge that.
Mm,
We are just we, we are doing almost the dance that is asked of us, and I think that is where I that's where I try to challenge. It's like, okay,
yeah.
what is dance? I think that's what I mean by context. I go towards the question often of, well, why is dance fluid, or why is dance, now I'm moving my arms big, you know, like but why? Like what causes that? Like, so when we do it authentic movement, I often try to persuade myself to uh, not to only focus on things which um, are associated with dance, but look for physical or experiential or temporal or sensorial things which aren't necessarily easily associated with dance, which often is more somatic, but also I think is a challenging of the timing of like, oh, now I need to continue moving because I'm dancing. And
Mm.
often is a recognition of, oh, but what of where I am? What is there a dance within the positioning and even the movement or the sensation, the place where I am, as opposed to going to the next step or continuing to move or continuing to create things. And
Mm.
that's a trick. That's a tool, right? That's an improvisation tool in a
Right.
way.
Yeah, I want to ask you again something. Oh, sorry, my question or not, maybe I'm a bit. uh, It's about the dance we are doing now. I just want to quickly see if I notice myself using dance, no, right?
Mm,
While you speak, I'm dancing as a way
mhm,
of listening.
mhm,
So in this case, again, habits are there somehow almost to relate to the listening of you speaking.
mhm, mhm.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I get very excited because the relationality between my dance and the listening, so your
Mm,
words somehow.
mm, mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sorry, it's not a question, but
No, it's great,
it,
but it's a great observation. I really appreciate it. And then it goes back to this thing of like, I mean, I find a lot of my scores and a lot of my dancing and my practices, they tend to be very cerebral, right? A lot of thinking involved. And it's very interesting how you bring about that sort of like how the words affect things because I think I think it shifts attention, right? Like we frame some thinking in a certain way, and our attentiveness of our situation and our felt sense moves somehow. And I think this is why, for me, choreography can be so expanded because of how attention can so easily transform and create a very exciting experiential situation. Um,
yes,
and that's super broad. It's very broad. It's barely recognizable as dance. Yeah,
right.
really. Yeah. Hey, I feel like we probably have some like unresolved questions uh, from this little dance, but we should start thinking about wrapping it up and
Okay.
coming back next week. Do you have any last remarks or thoughts?
Mm, no, it's just very fun to dance and and to dance and speak.
I mean, like I've been really excited about looking again at this topic of habits, and because I do find it really rewarding. I find it really interesting to meet with what we think of as habits, um and still, yeah, and I think it also reflects why, especially contemporary dance, is so obsessed with the habitual in one way or
Hmm.
another.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Right.
Hey,
And
yes, hey.
somehow the everyday. There is something also about that when you say the habitual, right? Am I wrong? I don't know.
Yes.
Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think that's part of the conversation. I think. Yeah.
Well,
uh, Ciao.
thank
Yeah.
you, Peter.
We'll see each other again next week.
Yes, let's do it. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.